You're watching the Mondays with Midja podcast. Midja is founder and CEO of Legal Leadership, a company specialising in the leadership training and coaching of lawyers. Get set to jumpstart your week with a shot of mojo as Midja and her guests talk all things life, love and leadership.
Hey, it's Monday and I'm Midja and welcome to the podcast all about life, love and leadership. And today in the studio, I have Leschen Smaller, who is the Director of Element Business and Accounting Solutions. And it is wonderful to have Leschen in the studio today. Welcome.
Thank you, Midja. Glad to be here, sort of.
Are you really glad? Or is that a nervous
I'm terrified.
No need to be.
No need.
Leschen, Googled you, obviously, before you came onto the podcast today. But I'd like to know something that I wouldn't have found out about you through my Google stalking. Tell us something we wouldn't find out.
Interesting, because if I wanted you to find out, it would be on Google.
Absolutely.
One thing, and it's I'm an accountant, so I'm boring, right?
Absolutely not.
So one thing that would be out of the norm that you'd never imagine me doing, and I can't even imagine doing it now, is back when I was young and we were living in Papua New Guinea, so that explains the context of which...
Right. That's important, is it, to the story? Mm-hmm.
And I used to model for Anthony Lee Dower, I think his name is.
Yes.
So that's it.
That's what you're giving us.
That's what I'm giving you.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
Would many people know that? Close friends, maybe.
No, it's not something I tell anybody.
Oh, my goodness. I love that we have this. So any sort of fundraising events, you know, catwalks, modelling that we need, we now have someone in our group that can do that. So
well,
I'm super excited.
They do the flicky leg thing now.
You can do that.
My husband used to model with me.
Really?
That was awesome.
Oh, my goodness. How long have you two been together?
Since I was 16.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'm going to be 50 this year. So what is that? I'm an accountant. I can't do that maths in my head. But
long
bloody time, yes.
So growing up Papua New Guinea,
yes.
What was that like?
I would say actually incredible. At the time, grass is always greener.
Yes.
And you always think that someone else's life and is way better than one are living in Australia or the UK or wherever it is. But actually, the life in New Guinea was fantastic.
Port Moresby, or where were you?
It was Moresby.
Yes, yep.
So I went to high school there. My dad was a civil engineer, so we travelled the world.
Wow.
And then he said, wherever you hit high school, that's where we stay, because the curriculums change across different countries, right? And we always follow the British curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Like international schools.
International schools, yeah. And then, so... Of course, I hit high school when he's in freaking Papua New Guinea.
So you stayed put.
That's where we stayed. But the most amazing life. Like it was normal to go to Cairns or Singapore once a month or once every 3 months. You know, you'd max out that credit card and then it would be paid out by the time you went. It was just the opportunity that life in PNG provided was amazing.
The flip side of that?
The flip side of it was you knew what you couldn't do. So you didn't have the freedom that everyone else had. Like I only recently caught a bus, for example, because in New Guinea you didn't catch buses, you didn't catch taxis, you know, so that you didn't have that freedom of life that our teenagers have.
Yeah,
and
on the trams, on the buses, that's you don't even think twice about them doing that.
No way would you do that in Papua New Guinea. And so I led a very, I suppose, sheltered life from that perspective. But what I got to do on the flip side.
Experiences and the travel.
Yeah. And so we left because of safety.
Okay. And you say you finished high school, so university here?
So university at Bond, then went back and worked for Deloitte.
Okay.
Who I actually worked at, did work experience for them whilst I was at Bond. And then came up to New Guinea, Australia in 2000. And that was because safety was just getting a little bit out of control.
Right.
And we had we had Brandon at that stage, and so a bit concerned. But my husband still lives in Ley.
Right.
So he commutes and has been doing for 22 years now.
Wow. Okay. All right.
So go figure, huh? Best marriage. You want a man, I've got one, but he's not really here. So go figure. Maybe that's my dating advice. I've got that out the way.
Yes, tick, done. Don't spend every day with them.
Oh, God, no.
So tell me a little bit about, Deloitte's, yes, tell me a little bit more around your experience and the decision, I suppose, to open up your own practice.
Yeah.
What was that decision? What was that about for you?
Yeah, so my career path obviously started at Deloitte, moved to Deloitte Brisbane when we arrived back on the Gold Coast. And then we had, so George was still in New Guinea, and it was the year when there were those massive storms, and it was really hard to get back from Brisbane to the Gold Coast.
Yes.
And if I was late and Brandon was at kindy, it just wasn't the right environment. And if you left the Big Four at 5 o'clock, the looks on their face was not impressed. So, and people they would sit there doing their CA or nothing, but you did not leave on time, whereas I had to.
Yes.
So that I kind of had to leave. It wasn't going to be a good outcome if I
wasn't a good fit for you at that time.
No, I couldn't do the long hours or anything like that. So then I went and joined WHK, which is now Findex.
Yes.
And I worked there for another 7 years, which was also great. And then I worked for WMS, which is an amazing firm, still here on the Gold Coast. And then I decided to leave because I went and worked for KPMG. And at that time, I thought, go back to the bright lights and shiny things, which I love.
Yes.
And as soon as I got there, I went, It's everything that I had forgotten about corporate life came flooding back.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were quite ready for me either. So I went about looking for something different, and I'm sitting there in the interviews and I'm going, sorry, all the accountants out there, but you're all a bit old in style.
Yeah.
You haven't embraced new technology. You all want to do things the old way. And I don't want to do that. And I'm falling asleep in this interview. It's not exciting me. And do I want to be an accountant then? And I'm going, I do. It's just I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah,
I want to do it my way. So I started so Element started in 2012. And it was cloudless, paperless.
Yes.
I need the cloud. I don't want the paper.
Yes.
It was paperless at that time.
Wow, okay.
And to try and find a solution for a small firm was super hard. Whereas now, look at there's so much choice out there now. Yeah, exactly. So things have changed a lot, but that's how Element started, because I knew things could be done differently. I knew they could be done more efficiently, and I wanted people to have flexibility. And I kind of had that work from home, work from office concept in mind. And I was working with a friend of mine, and we were looking at co-working spaces.
Oh, yes, yes.
Which back then had kind of just
they were
started to ramp up in flavour. And so eventually a friend of mine said, why don't you come and work in my office? So I did, and then we basically grew So we found an office of our own, and then Teresa, my amazing business partner, joined in on 2nd of September, so it's our 7th anniversary very shortly.
Right, okay.
And we then got the space at Seabank Building, which we've now been in for 7 years.
And clients for you, sort of ideal clients? Are they range of different businesses?
Yeah. So we have, we don't specialise in a particular. And we decided that on purpose because I used to specialise in pharmacy.
Okay.
But I think you become so narrow-minded, so parochial about the industry that you're in. Yes, you know it super well.
Yeah.
But what I love is being able to introduce a concept from another industry
Yes.
into a completely different industry and go, have you thought about this? And you start an idea from here, and through that collaboration, it just comes up to here. And the outcome, whilst it might not be what you intended it to be, is amazing. Just that whole process. And
I get that as well.
That's what I love.
I love that as well. And certainly, you know, for me, yes, I'm a lawyer and, you know, I have a lot of clients in the legal space. Yeah. But, you know, tomorrow I'm at Ingham's Chickens in Brisbane, you know, dealing with team leaders at Ingham's and process workers. And so for me, you know, sport, not-for-profits, engineers, you know, accountants, whatever industry, doesn't matter. But obviously I do a lot with law firms, but I feel I don't want to just do that forever because I kind of feel like there's a lot that the legal professional or any industry or profession can gain from others.
Spot on. And I think I've heard you speak, listen to a lot of your podcasts. I'm going, don't focus on law. You can do leadership is across industry.
Absolutely. So
concepts are the same.
Yeah. So I hear that, you know, from your business model as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, from the leadership space, what have you learned, I guess, around great leadership, around what it means? I know, you know, often as leaders we're still learning, you know what I mean? Like it's like, you know, when do I get there? Well, it's a continual learning and path and stuff like that. But yeah, from where you were at when you kind of started off, really stepping up into that leadership position to where you're at now, what's that been like for you? What have you kind of learned along the way?
Yeah, see, I mean, so I've been an accountant for, nearly 30 years now. And, oh, my God, that sounds
I know.
bad.
I know. It's like, I don't know, many years ago when I got like my 30-year reunion from high school invitation. And I thought they'd made a typo. I'm like, 30 years? That's not right. And then I'm like, oh, my God.
Wrong email address.
Yeah. What's got, like, I just, like, in my brain, I couldn't understand that. So I get that.
It's incredible.
Okay, so accountant, 30 years.
Yeah, and I think leadership has changed a lot, Midja. I think, you know, back in the day, you did what you were told. You didn't question it. If you did question it, eyebrows would go up and, you know, they'd go, little girl, get back in your corner because they were all men. And I think that's changed, as you know, a lot.
Yes.
Having said that, you look at all the accountants that you know that are in corporate positions or own accounting firms, and you do a ratio of women to men. I think it's still heavily weighted to men.
Yes.
But not that it matters. It's just that that's where you started. It was this, you didn't kind of speak outside your zone.
Yes.
Now, and so I've seen a lot of what not to do and what hurt me.
Yeah, what we like to call leader shit on this podcast.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of leader shit.
Yep.
And things that you you carry with you, and it's like, have you been in a position where you're yelling at your child? Not that we yell, but we do yell sometimes, yes. And the words that are coming out of your mouth are the words that your parents would say to you, and you're going, shut up, Leschen, just stop speaking. And the words just keep coming out, and you're going, oh my God, that's what my mum used to tell me.
Yes.
And so that's what you've got to be, I have to be so careful of, is that I don't carry that with me and those behaviours, because they're not something that, like the people that I've worked with, amazing people.
Yes.
But I don't want to carry the shit with me. And I think leadership, you want those young people to have a voice, because they see things differently to you, and a vision and a strategy and a plan is just made so much more robust when you have more people involved in it, invested in it, have ownership of it, and then your business just takes off. And you've got this solid team behind you, whereas in the past, and I talk about this bus thing, we all know about right seats, right bus, whatever the hell it is, but I kind of have this analogy whereby you have your driver, which is your leader, and you've all sat there and you've decided upon your goal, your destination for the day, and everyone's excited about where you're going, and and you're driving the bus, so you're still steering the wheel and all that sort of stuff. You've got your dashboard going, and you've got someone to navigate, because your bus doesn't have navigation. It's one of the older style buses, but it's a beautiful bus. Our environment is very important, right?
Absolutely.
And so you've got your team for navigation, you've got your team to manage your machine, engine thing, and they've got to keep it in alignment, they've got to keep the wheels going, and everyone trusts what everyone else is doing. Everyone is accountable for their own positions. And I don't think we've had that in the past. But as our young people come up through the system, whatever system, but they seem to be more worldly than we were at that time. So that trust and that accountability is a huge part of fostering as a leader. And that should lead to innovation, which is what every business wants. You need to be as efficient as possible, new ideas constantly. And our young people, and people at all levels have those ideas. We need to be able to listen to it, and every level has its own level of leadership, if you like.
Yes.
It's not only, you shouldn't only have it. I think there's a quote there about you good leaders shouldn't only be that in title. A good leader is just a good leader.
Absolutely.
By what they do and their actions.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that point of, I know Franklin Covey in high schools and primary schools, they run a program called The Leader in Me. And I love that, even from a very young age. Just there is a leader in me. Yes. And who is that? And what do I want that leader to be? And don't we want people, everyone, to be adding value in our organisations, to be doing their very best work?
Absolutely.
As I say, wake up on a Monday and think, thank God it's Monday. Be excited about the week ahead, and know that they can contribute. And otherwise we've got all this latent talent.
Yes.
All these people out there in our businesses and organisations who could give more, who have more to give, but are just not in the position or given the opportunity to give it.
And then they're not invested.
Yeah, then it's
and
like
then
whatever.
You'll get 50% and you just get this part of the job done. But it's that extra bit that's so important.
It's
that
the
gives
extra
you
bit.
The bee's knees, I don't even know what the word is, but it's that excitement, that added value, that blue sky thinking. That's the exciting part.
And to me, that's like for me, that driver in me, or my passion or my why is around that, because I had that, and I feel that a lot of people don't have it. Just they don't have it, and I did. The the law firm that I worked with, I love what I did. I was given so much space, like so much opportunity. Sometimes I feel like I was kind of put in positions where I'm like, I'm just not sure I can do this. Like, this is a big ask. I don't know why you're asking me to do
you
this.
did it?
I did it.
Yeah.
And the leader, the CEO, you know, I had a number of leaders and CEOs and all managing partners over my time there. And sometimes I'd ask them stuff and they'd just like shoo me away and they'd go, I'm not, like, you don't have to ask me that. You just figure out how to do it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Until I got in a kind of a position, and people often ask me about my role and how did you get a role like lead coach and facilitator in a law firm, and how did you get to do strategy? How did you get to do this or whatever? I'm like, well, no one gave me the job. I just did it.
Yeah.
I just created it.
Yeah.
I just found something that I thought this would help, and I did a little bit of that on the side of my other work that I needed to do until I could have the business case of enough value bringing in that space that, look, this is what I can actually do now. But waiting for a position description, waiting for someone to go, excuse me, would you like this opportunity now? That's well, it might happen. You might get promoted, but find the space for yourself.
But how fun. They probably wouldn't have even, your bosses or your team leaders wouldn't have even had that concept in their head at the time. So you've created the idea, the whole concept, and then basically executed it, and they've gone, that's great. And so how good of them to see you and to believe you, to allow you to do what you felt was so good that also benefited them.
And I think, Leschen, like in your organisation and others, there are people like that everywhere that have other skills, whether they be in business development, whether they be with client relations, whether like writing, presenting. It doesn't matter, whatever your magic kind of is. But there's probably a whole lot more that each individual could be doing if given the chance to do it.
And having that support. Because, people could, so you know how you go to someone for help or endorsement of an idea.
Yes.
And sometimes to have someone go, just go and do it, it's not very supportive.
Yes.
So I think, it's really important that people understand that if that's what the message you're delivering is, just go and do it. It's I support you, go and do it. It's not you're in this on your own, make or break, and we'll see what happens. But I love the idea that, and I think it's so important that when you do say go and do something, that they do have the ability to come back and bounce ideas off you and go,
yes,
think about this, because it's not you on your own. You've got a team behind you.
Absolutely.
And that's the trust that you have in one another, and that enables you to go and do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
And people see that, I think. I often talk to leaders a lot around, like everything is so visible. People are watching all the time.
It's creepy.
Yeah, they're watching you. Well, and your kids are the same. I've got 3 of them, and they all watch how I treat the other one. So they go, okay, how's mum reacted to what Sophie's done? Like the boys are like, what's happening there? Or, vice versa. So it's how you show up as a leader. It's those decisions. It's how you treat others. And whether you like it or not, you're on show.
All the time.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you can't be real and make mistakes and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I was just about to say, being a good leader is about being human.
Yes.
And one of my leadership moments was Maria Simmons came in from Vimsky.
Oh, yes.
She's an amazing person. So she came in and did a culture workshop with our team. And I would liken it to Foster King for gold. So we ended up losing a lot of the team, but there was a lot of gold that was left.
Yes.
But we lost the team partly because we didn't listen, and we abrogated leadership and to another person, to a manager. And you can't do that in small business. You need to be present. But the point I'm trying to make is the human aspect of it. Teresa and I had to sit down in front of the team and be really open and vulnerable and say, look, we're sorry, we got some of this wrong. We got some of it right, but we got some of it wrong, and we've heard you. And our team now is probably the best we've had. They're amazing. And we share a lot with our team. They're human, they make mistakes, and we're human and we make. And as long as that's always brought to the table and it's up for discussion, I think that's a massive part of leadership.
It is. And I think sometimes leaders or business owners underestimate the impact that certain decisions or actions can have on the rest of the team. So often I've gone in and if I've done some one-on-ones with staff, done some interviewing before, going to the executive with a summary of that, sometimes the things I hit them with, I'll have CEOs go, that happened a year ago. Are they still talking about that? I'm like, they're still talking about it. But they're still how did you resolve that? And they said, well, we just didn't say anything because we just thought it would be better not to say anything. I'm like, not saying anything is worse because they are still talking about it. It's still the first thing, when I interview them, the first thing they're saying. So they haven't let that go, even though you think you put a tea towel over the elephant and stuck it in the corner and pretend it's not there anymore. It is impacting performance. It is impacting engagement, loyalty, performance. And wonderful as you did go, hey, you know what, as an executive team or as a business owner or a leader or whatever, when this happened last week, that was the wrong decision that I made there. Yeah. This is why I made it, the best of intentions, right?
Correct.
But I understand that the impact has been this, and I really want to listen to how that made you feel, what the impact was on you, and then shut up.
Shut up, exactly. Listen, that's the other part, is listen.
Yeah.
You get so much more back when you just listen.
Yes.
And it's really hard.
It is hard. What do they say, when you're talking, you're not learning?
You talk a lot.
I do talk a lot. I know. I do talk a lot. I'm trying to do more listening, right? That's why this podcast, right? I'm now interviewing other people. And I have a little space where I now palms up for me. So if I'm coaching or if I'm in a space where I need to listen, I put my palms in my lap and face up. It's kind of like a little trigger for me. It's a little mind game I play. That now listening space, Midge. Because I do so much presenting and so much facilitating out where my hands are, you've seen my hands. They're everywhere. They're very controlled in the podcast studio because of the microphones. But when I'm listening, there's a different energy piece about that, and the hands in the lap work for me.
Great idea. I like that.
So tips for leading a team. And, we've spoken a little bit about the people aspect, but from a more of that sort of operational process type of section or segment of leading a team. Some advice around that, or what you do in your business?
Okay, well, we actually do a lot in this space. So I think once you've developed your vision and your team are invested in that vision, it's really important to remind them constantly. And it's not only them, it's you as well, so that you stay on track. And if you need to change direction, which COVID taught us, you are positioned to do that really quickly. So what we do is we have a strategy session with Teresa and myself. We then go back to the team and bring it to life. We get their input into it, and that might mean changing some stuff up. But then we do 90-day big rocks.
Love that.
And we have a monthly huddle. And in that huddle, we share the big rocks, and so it's a constant reminder of where we are, what the projects are, and
what
every
the focus is.
What the focus is, because what is it? Where the focus is, the energy flows.
Flows, yes.
So it's constant reminders of that. We have team leaders that speak to each big rock. We have a gratitude session.
I love that.
And basically everyone just goes in and puts their own little gratitude pieces in, and then they speak to that in the meeting. We have, if we've got things that are coming up to celebrate. So culture is a living being thing. It's just a live thing that you have to focus on. And so as much as your vision might be A, you have to have the culture behind it to drive it. And so these touch points are just the driving and the reinforcement and the enhancement of that culture. So having those moments when the team are focused on us and them is really important. And what comes out of it is literally gold.
So it's not that tick done culture. That's done. That's done for the next 3 or 4 years. Tick. It's like no. Yeah, absolutely.
You have to work at it. It's like a relationship.
Yes.
You've got to work at it all the time. And
there's so much noise, there's so much busyness, there's so much distraction, there's so much, and if you don't have that, I love that cadence of meetings with real intentionality around that, and we know people like that. People like rhythm, people like that structure piece, and it produces results. That consistency of messaging, of measure, produces results. We know that.
Yes. And do you think that constraint, if you like, the boundaries, the structure, in some cases that creates innovation?
Absolutely.
And I think without it, people are going, it's like being goalless.
Yes.
They don't know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and all of a sudden it's overwhelming. But having that structure, they can ask more compelling questions to get a better answer, to do whatever it is that needs to be done.
Absolutely. And, sometimes people will fight, and I've been this person, I must admit, because of my personality type, that fight against structure, fight against process, fight against even case management process or anything like that in an organisation, will fight against it because they just want loosey-goosey, and I'm just a big ideas person. I'm just going to whatever I want to do. And I can tell you, people, it does not work. But given the structure around it, then your brain can rest because it has that structure and process in place, and it can go into the space of creativity and innovation without the other stuff, having to worry about that other stuff.
Which is ironic.
It's ironic, yeah.
Like, who would have thought? But it is exactly that.
It allows the creativity. Otherwise, it's tough to find that space without it. And also, I say, from a movie, what's the movie called? Take the Lead with Antonio Banderas. We used to run a whole leadership program called Take the Lead, and we used to dance and stuff. Anyone from Shine lawyers will know what I'm referring to. And there's a quote in there around the tango must be earned. And I talk about this to people all the time, around just the creativity and the I want to do whatever I feel like doing space. It's like, well, the tango must be earned. Like, you don't just turn up at your first dance, rehearsal and go, right, I'm doing the tango today. I mean, you don't do that. You practice, you learn the steps, you get the technique, you get your fitness up. You do all of that, and then you know what? You've earned the right to tango.
Yeah.
To be spontaneous, to bring it.
Is that all you could think of?
Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah.
It's that whole process, and through that process, your thinking, it doesn't necessarily become aligned and, you fall in with the old, but you learn from that process, and you imagine, it leads you to this point where you imagine what else you could add to it.
Yes.
But you've got to have all your basics, your foundation laid solid, your fitness, the technique, then you can create.
Absolutely.
And very often that's when you do want to create. And that's what, this whole concept about, I think we've gone from lack of structure to structure again, but not like it was in the old days.
Yes, you're different.
It's different.
Yeah. And I also think it's sometimes when, certainly a lot of my one-on-one coaching clients are more sort of the demographics of like late 30s, in their 40s. But I find that most of the people, they're after the tango now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they've done a lot of hard work. They've worked hard in their careers. They've got a whole lot of foundation and so much skill and experience. And now they look to me and they're like, I want to do the tango now. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what I want to do next, but it's something different. And I want to use what I've earned here and what I've got. So it's a cool space to be in, I think.
It's a great space to be in, but it's scary too because
absolutely.
you've had this career path. You've known as soon as you graduated uni, you knew the career path that you wanted to follow, and now you're going, I want to do something else, but what is it?
Yeah.
And what does that tango look like? And how can I add to it and make it more exciting? And, there's this change that's upon us all, but what is it? And I think sometimes the best people are the ones that step over that ledge.
Yeah.
Or are pushed by friends, support people.
Yeah, circumstances
put
in life.
Bum.
Yeah. It's like, just go for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I love that space. And I love talking to people, working with people in that space because it's cool stuff.
Well, interesting, because when I was started Element, I'm going, I don't want to start my own thing on my own. I've never wanted to be on my own. And it was a friend of mine that went, oh, for God's sake, Leschen, stop talking about, just do it. And she just basically foot up bum.
Yeah, I can imagine who that friend was.
Yes. And it was just, I haven't looked back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's exciting.
It is. I love that. And as you know, for me, starting my business also coincided with the end of my marriage and my divorce.
New
beginnings. So apart from I don't want someone who's around me 24/7 to date.
God.
Any other dating advice? Because Leschen's heard some of my dating stories. Sometimes
God.
Leschen's jaw is open a lot of times in my storytelling.
Chin on ground.
It's like, what? Oh, my Lordy. I love it just for the reaction that I get. Any other advice for me? Because you know what? Like, I feel like I'm ready. Like,
You're ready?
Forget all those other stories and all the craziness. I'm ready for serious love.
Yes, well, I heard Stacey's advice. She was like, I'm going, what's a and then
Yes.
So that made me laugh. But I think just like that, you're waiting for the tango.
Yeah, I am.
In your relationship.
I am.
But I think the best things happen to us when we least expect it to.
Yes.
When you stop looking, that's when that someone will just be there, and you will look to your left or your right, and that's when they will be there, and you'll go, oh, it's you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
That's all I got, sorry.
That's okay. I'm taking it with me. I'm taking it with me. You'll be the first to know about it. Well, everyone will know about it.
I'm
oh,
like,
goodness sake.
Could you do a whole podcast?
I will. Yeah, he's going to be worried. He's going to be worried because he'll know that he'll be on a podcast.
And we'll all be staring at him.
Yeah. It's like, oh, my goodness. Who is this brave man?
This whole conversation with everyone about this interrogation.
Run the gauntlet, as they say. Run the gauntlet. He'll have to be a brave man.
Are you good enough?
He's out there, though. We end the episode, Leschen, with our, woo-woo from the universe, our message. So I've got Carpe Diem cards, or I've got Trust Your Crazy Ideas. Which one do you want to open? Trust your crazy ideas. Crazy. All right. So we're going to banging things here. Pick one of those and open up.
Okay.
You just pop open the front. It's like a little cookie, fortune cookie.
I actually thought from the podcast that it was a fortune cookie.
I know. I'm sorry. I have to do that for my guests. I'll just give them a cookie with it.
Okay. Ooh, after all, dreams are what we live for.
Oh, there we go.
I love that.
Well, that's
After
your message.
all, dreams are what we live for. Those are the compelling questions and working towards a goal. It's manifesting your future.
Yeah. It's like I'm going to manifest that big love.
Imagine if his name was Stan.
I know. Imagine. Because, you got to work out the couple name, of course. Ooh. And Midja would be an interesting, what we would pair with that. We'll see.
Work out the names. That's your constraint.
Yeah.
You can only go out with these people.
Absolutely.
They named this.
That's right. It has to match up. Oh, boy. Leschen, where can people find you and your business, and if they want help in that space or to connect with you?
So we are on, so our webpage is www.elementbusiness.com. Drop me a line at lsmaller@elementbusiness.com. Give us a call on 07555 10143. We've got an amazing team that will help or direct you where you need to go, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yay!
Not good on the social media.
Yeah, I know. The socials aren't,
Oh, shush. We do have a social media process.
But web page.
Yeah, go to that one.
Yeah.
Don't use the social media. I won't be looking at it.
I love that. It has been an absolute delight to have you in the podcast studio.
I've loved it. I was really nervous.
It's just a chat.
It is a chat. You made it feel really good. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And that's a wrap for our podcast this Monday. You go out there and have a wonderful week in life, in love, in your leadership position. And we'll catch you next week. I'm Midja, and thank God it's Monday.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Mondays with Midja podcast. Host Midja Fisher is a leadership expert, keynote speaker, coach and facilitator. To find out more about Midja, visit midja.com.au or follow her on Instagram at Midja Fisher, and make sure you subscribe, share and leave a review.